Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's Indian Gold Import Update for the month of July 2017. Indian gold imports spiked 143% in July. India imported over 60 tons of gold, or 1.9 million ounces of the yellow stuff in July. That put it up 143% from the 25 tons imported in July 2016. July gold imports were up 14% from June's imports of 53.1 tons. And preliminary August gold imports appear to be up 69% from August 2016 imports of about 26 tons. So India, it looks like it is importing very decent, sizable amounts of gold. Let's take a look at the charts. Here's July to July. You can see the upward trend year over year. July up from 25 tons. Now, keep in mind, let's go down a little further and look at these charts. The 3-year chart is a little better to detect the trend. So you can see India had been importing large amounts 2014 and 15. 2016, this is this period right here, was an off year. So the comparisons of these 143% increases, 69% increases year over year, month over month, are not meaningful because 2016 was a low year for Indian gold imports for a variety of reasons. They had tariffs, they had imports, they still have tariff duties, but also what hurt India imports in the first half of 2016 especially was the rising price of gold. Also, they had imported a lot of gold the year before. There was uncertainty. Also, there was the end of the year. India should have had more gold imports. They had a nice monsoon season, but because they demonetized the two most widely used rupee notes, Indians did not have cash to buy the gold. So you can see that pent-up demand has been increasing this year. So you had a low year last year. It looks like now India is back on track for, say, 750, 800 tons of gold to be imported. The reason that's important is India doesn't mine any gold domestically, so it has to import it all. And that causes some issues with the balance of trade. We'll see a chart below in a sec. But let's just take a look at the annual amounts. You can see this year they've imported basically about 580 tons, just like they did last year, but this is only through July. So you got August, September, October, November. You got 5 more months. You could add another 250 tons very easily, maybe even more, maybe 300 tons. So you might get close to something like 2015's 900 some odd tons. It was 979. So you could be getting 750 to 900 tons of gold imported this year. And you can see India has been on an upward trajectory in its gold consumption. Or as I said, it's all imported. They don't have domestic gold mining production of any significant amount. Now, here's the problem India has with gold. When they import a lot, it can account for anywhere between 3 and 4 or 5% of their overall imports, up to nearly 20%. And that upsets the Indian government. So they try to curb Indian gold imports to improve their balance of trade, but they do that through tariffs. But the Indian people actually have a desire to get it, and when they do that and they increase tariffs, then they just smuggle it. So India struggles with that. The government of India, the people don't. Well, the people struggle with what the government does to their gold desires. I think that's all we have on India. Now you see India as a country, as a reserve bank, doesn't have that much gold. Now it's projected or estimated that Indian citizens have 18 to 22,000 tons of gold, and it's not hard of a stretch because they've accumulated that over thousands of years. Well, you can see the Indian government doesn't have that much gold, and that ties into my whole concept where a lot of the gold bugs are just so brainwashed by this narrative that China is lying and China is trying to crash the dollar. China has gold that they're not telling you about? No, that's just the central bank. You can see China's central bank, People's Bank of China, has 1,800 tons. Everyone claims they're lying. Why not make the same claim about India lying? They're not lying. There's a lot of gold in the country. It's just not at the central bank of India. But that is another one of my arguments about the alternative financial media. They latch on a narrative. Someone makes up a story or a narrative, gets repeated. No one challenges it, and you're off to the races. We've seen this new one with Jim Rickards. SDR is going to become the world reserve currency in January. No, it's not. That's totally ridiculous. For the SDR to become a world reserve currency, more than 85% of the countries would have to vote for it. Well, the United States has 16.52% of the vote, and they wouldn't be isolated. It's not like the whole world wants to have the SDR as the world reserve currency. First of all, the United States can block it. It's not going to happen in January, but this is the type of nonsense that gets peddled. The other one is the gold-backed yuan. It is expected China is going to launch. By whom? Another made-up story. Then they cite gold bugs and dollar bears that China is going to do something that they're not going to do. They have no intention of doing, backing the yuan to buy gold. So China is going to go out and say, we have $1.2 trillion in dollars in U.S. treasuries, but we'd rather pay in gold so you take our yuan. It's foolishness. Not only is it foolishness, it's just fake. The story has no source. That story, and then people tell me, well, it was published here and it was published there. I don't care where it's published. You can make up a fake story, publish it everywhere. New York Times, Zero Hedge, it doesn't matter where it's published. If it's fake, it's fake. If it's made up and it has no source, it's fake. And it doesn't matter if you think, well, China is trying to crash the dollar. Says who? You've believed that because you've been hearing this constant, steady stream of this China praising that China is going to do this and China is going to do that. Which is funny that the gold bugs love to praise China, and yet they say they're lying. So you were idolizing a country that's lying about its gold reserves? Well, that's good. So you really think it would be a good idea for China to be in charge of the world, lying about their gold reserves, executing 1,000 people a year, and has massive amounts of internal debt, building ghost cities. I understand you don't like what the dollar is, but this idea that China, everything China does is, first of all, is not wonderful. But second of all, China is not out to crash the dollar. That doesn't do them any good. It doesn't do them any good to deplete their gold reserves, to buy oil. They have massive trade with Europe, massive trade with the United States. They have an increasing amount of U.S. treasuries. They're not going to want to go and annoy the United States and tell Saudi Arabia, why don't you take yuan? Because we're going to back it by gold. Mechanically, it doesn't even work because China has export prohibitions on their gold. You can't take gold out of the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Where are they going to get it from? Why would they even want to do it? I know, game over. China's going to crash the dollar. China's going to stand for delivery on COMEX and make it default. All this nonsense. Anyway, that was a tangent, but there wasn't much to report here today on Indian gold other than India is doing what it does pretty much every month, importing a decent amount. Tomorrow we'll do the week in review, a lot to talk about. Lots of things happened during the week. We'll do later in the week Shanghai Gold Exchange, Indian silver imports, Canadian mint gold, Canadian mint silver, first half sales. We've got a lot more special reports, and so stay tuned, and thanks for subscribing. Whether you're watching this on BitChute or on VidMe or YouTube, please remember if you'd like to donate, please do so. Again, I don't get the number of subscribers that others get for just repeating these unsourced nonsense stories that make people feel good that somehow something is happening that's going to crash the dollar or make gold and silver skyrocket in game. Yep, I've realized that people are addicted to hearing that nonsense, and there's a lot more of them than there are of you that like to listen to this type of analysis. They really enjoy hearing, they have to hear these fantastical stories, and they defend these stories. It is tiresome, and I'm probably one of the few people who actually challenges these stories, and then everyone gets mad. You can't prove it's not true. No, I guess I can't, and you can prove that it is true. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be on tomorrow.